Good evening. Welcome to the January. Welcome to the January 19th meeting of Troy City Council. I'm Marty Baker, President of Council. Please silence your electronic devices for the duration of the meeting. We will begin with the invocation by Mr. Tom Kendall, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for the bounty you've bestowed upon our community and the fact that although recently we did not pass, we were still looked at as one of the top communities in the United States. And we will continue to move forward in our endeavors to improve even more. Be with us tonight as we make decisions for the city. Be with those who help support and protect us, the fire, the police, and the armed forces, both here and abroad. Thank you. In His name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Twist?
Here.
Mr. Kendall?
Here.
Mrs. Oda? Here. Mr. Terwilliger?
Here.
Mr. Swayzer?
Here.
Mr. Phillips?
Here.
Mr. Heath? Mr. Tremblay?
Here.
Mrs. Sneed?
Here.
To make a motion, do we excuse Mr. Heath this evening?
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Phillips and seconded by Mr. Kendall to excuse Mr. Heath. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Kendall?
Yes.
Mrs. Oda? Yes. Mr. Terwilliger?
Yes.
Mr. Swayzer?
Yes.
Mr. Phillips?
Here. Yes. Excuse me.
Mr. Tremblay?
Next time I will be talking.
Mrs. Sneed?
Yes.
Mr. Twist?
Yes.
Mr. Heath is excused.
Mrs. Knight, please read a summary of the minutes of the January 4th meeting of Troy City Council.
Minutes of Council, January 4, 2016. Ordinance number 01-2016, employing clerk, was given first reading and adopted. Council adjourned into executive session and returned at 7:25 p.m. The rules of council were approved. Mr. Kendall was elected President Pro Tem of Council. Mr. Heath was elected Clerk Pro Tem of Council. Committee reports. Committee recommended legislation be prepared authorizing city to participate in ODOT cooperative program. Personnel Committee reported regarding appointments and reappointments to the Board of Tax Appeals and the Income Tax Board of Review, and Mark Douglas, Kent Kazmaier, and Ed Westmeyer's appointments were approved. Resolution number R1, 2016, authorizing sale of surplus property by internet auction, first reading and adopted. Resolution number R2, 2016, authorizing agreement with Local 1638 IAFF, was given first reading and adopted. Resolution number R3, 2016, authorizing agreement with FOP Labor Council Captain, was given first reading and adopted. Ordinance number 041, 2015, amend general plan portion in Stonebridge Meadows, PD, was given fourth reading and postponed indefinitely. Ordinance number 02, 2016, release mortgage lien for Inna Jeff Print, was given first reading and adopted. Ordinance number 03, 2016, fixing salaries and wages of certain employees, was given first reading and adopted. Ordinance number 04, 2016, cooperative purchasing program, first reading and adopted. Following various comments, council adjourned at 7:52 p.m.
Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Phillips and seconded by Mr. Twist to approve the minutes. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mrs. Oda? Yes. Mr. Terwilliger?
Yes.
Mr. Swayzer?
Yes.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Tremblay?
Yes.
Mrs. Sneed?
Yes.
Mr. Twist?
Yes.
Mr. Kendall?
Yes.
Minutes are approved.
We'll move on to committee reports. I have a report this evening from the Committee of the Whole regarding the Hobart Arena renovation and expansion project, portion of the Riverfront Development Project, increasing the project authorization. On January 12th, all members of council met as a committee of the whole to review information related to the bids received for the Hobart Arena renovation and expansion project and to consider increasing the project authorization from $7,350,000 to $9 $7,650,000 as the bids received exceeded the authorization. The meeting was chaired by Council President Baker. The detailed report and attachment discuss the reasons for the bids being over the authorization, as well as the ability to fund the increased authorization. As noted in the detailed report, based on the reasons for the bids, rebidding would likely result in even higher bids. As it is also noted, there would be little benefit to the operation of the Hobart Arena to only do part of the project and hope to complete it at some future date. The increased authorization does not include the addition of a second sheet of ice, as the study concluded that the capital construction cost for a second sheet of ice facility would exceed $7.6 million, and once in operation would likely require up to $120,000 of general fund operational subsidy every year. It is the recommendation of council as the committee of a whole that the Hobart Arena renovation and expansion project should go forward. We recommend that legislation be prepared to increase the authorization for the project from $7,350,000 to $9,650,000. So that the bid prices can be secured, we support emergency legislation. We also note that a reappropriation related to this project will be presented for council at some point. Respectfully submitted, the council as a committee of the whole, including Brock Heath, Bobby Phillips, John Terwilliger, Tom Kendall, John Schweizer, Doug Tremblay, Robin Oda, Lynn Snee, and Bill Twist. Are there any questions from council on the report? Okay, our next report's from the Utilities Committee, and Chairman, Mr. Doug Tremblay.
Thank you, Madam President. The Utilities Committee met on January 12th to consider recommending authorization of the bidding of the replacement of 4 influent screw pumps at the wastewater treatment plant. The design is now complete for the replacement of 4 of the 8 pumps that are used in the plant operation. The estimated construction cost is $1,200,000, is less than the $1,300,000 that was budgeted. It is the recommendation of this committee that legislation be prepared authorizing the Director of Public Service and Safety to advertise for bids and enter into a contract for the replacement of 4 influent screw pumps at the wastewater treatment plant at a cost not to exceed $1,200,000. This is respectfully submitted by Mr. Twilliger, Mr. Twist, and myself.
Is there any questions from council? Thank you, Mr. Tremblay.
You're welcome.
Are there any further committee reports to come before council? We now open the meeting for citizen comments. There is a 2-minute time limit at this point in the meeting, and Mr. Kerber is our timekeeper. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments related to agenda items this evening? If so, please come to the microphone and state your name and address before addressing council. We'll move on to resolutions and ask Mrs. Knight to read Resolution R4, 2016.
Resolution number R4, 2016, resolution authorizing the Director of Public Service and Safety of the City of Troy, Ohio, to advertise for bids and enter into a contract for the replacement of 4 influent screw pumps at the wastewater treatment plant. Cost not to exceed $1,200,000. This is budgeted. First reading.
Are there any questions from council?
Move for suspension.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Kendall and seconded by Mr. Twist to suspend the rules. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Terwilliger?
Yes.
Mr. Swayzer?
Yes.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Tremblay?
Yes.
Mrs. Snee? Yes. Mr. Twist?
Yes.
Mr. Kendall?
Yes.
Mrs. Oda?
yes,
Move to adopt.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Schweizer and seconded by Mr. Tremblay to adopt the resolution. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Swayzer?
Yes.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Tremblay?
Yes.
Mrs. Snee?
yes,
Mr. Twist?
Yes.
Mr. Kendall?
Yes.
Mrs. Oda?
yes,
Mr. Twilliger?
Yes.
Resolution is adopted.
Mrs. Knight, please read Resolution R5, 2016.
Resolution number R5, 2016, Resolution amending Resolution Number R45, 2015, increasing the authorization for the Hobart Arena renovation and expansion project, portion of the Riverfront Development Project, and declaring an emergency. This increases the authorization to $9,650,000. First reading.
Are there any questions from council?
Move for suspension.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Kendall and seconded by Mr. Schweizer to suspend the rules. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Tremblay?
Yes.
Mrs. Snee?
Yes.
Mr. Twist?
Yes.
Mr. Kendall?
Yes.
Mrs. Oda?
Yes.
Mr. Twilliger?
Yes.
Mr. Swayzer?
Yes.
Move for adoption.
It's been moved by Mr. Phillips and seconded by Mr. Schweizer to adopt the resolution. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Tremblay?
Yes.
Mrs. Snee?
Yes.
Mr. Twist?
Yes.
Mr. Kendall?
Yes.
Mrs. Oda?
Yes.
Mr. Twilliger?
Yes.
Mr. Swayzer?
Yes.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Resolution is adopted.
We have no ordinances tonight, so this completes the business portion of tonight's meeting. Mrs. Knight, are there any communications or announcements?
No, they're not.
Mayor Beamish, do you have any comments this evening?
Not tonight, Madam President.
Mr. Titterington, any comments this evening?
Nothing tonight, madam. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kerber, any comments this evening?
No, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Frigge, any
Madam
comments?
President, I have nothing at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I would like to congratulate Platoon Commander Scott Geen and firefighter Jim Nick, both of who are retiring from the fire department, and thank them both for their years of dedication and wish them long and happy retirements. Are there any comments from council members tonight?
Yes, Madam President, I have one.
Mr. Schweizer?
I would like to take this opportunity to thank Reverend David Ritchie for putting together the Martin Luther King celebration yesterday. We had about 40 hearty souls that marched down to the police station and heard an uplifting prayer from Reverend Culp, and went on down to First United Church of Christ and heard another excellent message from Dr. David or Reverend Atwell. Everybody adjourned into the basement. We had some fellowship, and it was just a really good day. So I wanted to thank Mr. Ritchie and Reverend Ritchie. And
Thank you for serving on that committee as well. Appreciate it.
I have a question.
Mrs. Oda?
I'm sorry I didn't call you about this earlier, Patrick. We've talked about it before, but do you have any information on what's happening on the north end of town with the shopping centers that are going underwater out there?
Okay, that's kind of
I mean, what
broad.
does
I mean,
the-
Sherwood?
Yeah,
Sherwood
Sherwood
Plaza.
Plaza.
I know that in the past, in the recent past, we've been in contact with the owners who are out of state. They have been making investment on the inside. I believe they're in the process of changing marketing agencies right now. And so our intention is to follow up with them and see what their long-term strategy is and see if there's anything that we can do to help them remarket that property.
And also the little place on Foss that they also own.
It's part of the same.
I just,
Little development.
from the people that have rented in there, it doesn't sound like there's anything going on inside to improve those buildings. Sounds like they're just continuously deteriorating.
Well, like I said,
And they can't
our
get a hold of
information is, what I just reported. But again, we will follow up with them and check the status, especially as somebody new comes in to market the property.
I don't see how they could market it with the condition it's in right now. But thank you.
Any other council members have any comments? Any comments from city staff this evening? Anyone else in the audience have any comments or questions? Thank you all for attending tonight's meeting. Have a safe and peace-filled week. Meeting adjourned.